Something unusual from me today, but very much part of what I find most enjoyable about Spelljammer campaigns, presenting a traditional, fairly well-known monster species in an entirely new, cosmic and zany way that the players will simply never expect, but thoroughly enjoy and exploit. So today I present the Space Myconids and the Unreal Market, as well as some suggestions for what you can find there and how it operates across the multiverse. Myconids, as we know, are mushroom people. They are generally pacifists who are only really interested in making comfortable environments where they can establish their own sorts of fungus ecosystems and live in peace to multiply and expand their fungus world. Like the beavers of the Underdark, they secrete organic substances into water. The flows then use the power of nature to carve out new caverns or connecting existing caverns to create enormous zones with their own fungus forests, shallow bogs, deltas, and sweltering chasm waterfalls choked with teeming varieties of unique flora and fauna. Thanks to Myconids, most of the Underdark of the world of Toril is able to support just as much life as you can find on the surface world, and it's the root cause of such a massive proliferation of unique life forms on that planet, along with magic and odd geology and massively accelerated evolution, and the influence of parallel dimensions, gods, and who knows what else. Out in the vastness of space, the Myconids thrive, one of the races of beings you're liable to find just about anywhere that they can exist, which includes a lot of asteroid belts. In reality, asteroid belts are not like you see in the movies. The rocks and dust of at least a planet is there, sure, but scattered so wide it's unlikely that anything is going to be flying very close together, and navigation through them is not a matter of skill, just risk assessment. You either get hit by a space rock or you don't. In fantasy space, asteroid belts are completely different, and we just accept this as being much more interesting. So, space Myconids mostly hunt through the churning maelstrom of the dense asteroid fields, flying in great big spaceship puffballs that literally bounce off the asteroids until they detect any significant water or ice nearby. Some more advanced colony ships could carry their own water source, such as a magical item that links to the elemental plane of water. They will create an airtight and hydrated chamber in a large asteroid, and from that central point, usually the new base of their Myconid sovereign, they will lash other asteroids to the center and build a larger and larger cavern biosphere network that they can enrich with more and more different forms of life, all selected to work together harmoniously, recycling everything, just harvesting minerals and growing their population, joining their minds with the sovereign and contemplating the fact that they exist and the multiverse is pretty cool. As you can imagine, huge populations of Myconids can exist undisturbed out in space for eons, and their psychic footprints in the astral plane, the Shadowfell, and the feywild can be huge. I mean, why do you think there always seems to be an unusually large fungus in fantasy settings? It's the Myconids, man. Hallucinogenic spores are the other thing Myconids are infamous for, and it's this aspect that I'm going to have some fun with. Now imagine a marketplace that, like the Matrix, exists only to those who are plugged into it. In the case of the Myconids, they somehow generate a layer of planar existence that is only real to those who are hallucinating heavily. And it doesn't have to be from the Myconids' own spores, so random drugged folks may accidentally find themselves in this unreal world, like they just slipped through a portal into the Feywild. But it's even weirder, because this is not based on fairy tales, it's based on people tripping their asses off. So you literally run into anything in the Unreal Market, and the Myconids who generate the place just enjoy lazing about in reality, while their minds are instead drifting around and interacting with the market and all its more or less permanent residents and a constant throng of visitors. Is your brain starting to fizz with the possibilities? Well, grab yourself a tasty beverage. I'm about to dive into it and just inspire you until I run out of breath or your head explodes. Here we go. First of all, it's important to point out to your players that they can willingly fail a saving throw at any time if they choose to do so. Then whatever means that you have established to totally intoxicate their characters can go ahead without much danger of splitting up the party. I mean, it can be fun to have half the players interacting with the market, while the other players are just having their characters deal with the other half of the adventuring group seeming to have going crazy in a very specific and shared hallucination for however long it lasts. When the characters snap out of it and suddenly all sorts of new gear materializes out of nowhere, quite functional but not actually real, that can be a lot of fun for players to roleplay, and if they want that, by all means, go for it. Adding dramatic tension by having some antagonists show up while half the party is at quite a disadvantage can be a source of some fantastic drama. So, as the hallucinations kick in, Reality always seems to distort distances. Rooms once familiar now seem too large or much too small. Stairwells can seem to be uneven or stretched or curved when they are actually straight. At the same time, the body will not respond normally. The gasping reflex might shut down so a drugged person can operate normally even while they hold their breath to the point of passing out. They can perform pretty amazing feats of strength and speed in short bursts, lifting as though they were a size category larger, making a free dash action for a few rounds, ignoring an exhaustion level or two, jumping half again over what they normally would be able to, that sort of thing. But of course, also usually on an emotional and mental roller coaster that is flying off the rails into what? Suddenly, appearing like mist or emerging from turned corners as though they had always been just out of sight. Strange shop fronts and market stalls appear and start to cluster in clumps, merging together over distorted perspectives into a random kaleidoscope of an exotic market. Nothing is normal. There will be plumes of tasty smoke and meal fumes from a floating barbecue kitchen tethered to a sleeping astral whale. There is a crew of flumps in chef hats armed with razor-sharp cleaver spatulas slicing the regenerating tentacles off an arboreal decapus, snarling and hissing from its sturdy cage. The chefs fry the squirmy but undeniably fresh and delicious meat with a variety of fungus, insects, and a light fish egg batter. In a cloud of musty dust, a forlorn and clearly undead hollyphant flutters by with tattered golden fur now kind of rusty looking. It apologetically holds up a little sign advertising smiths, portals and walls, with an established followed by an infinity symbol. The hollyphant will hover a moment expecting to get slapped out of the way. Then its murky little eyes will show a little excitement before it attempts to spin its little sign around in an entertaining way, only for the sudden motion to cause the end of its trunk to fall off, causing a saddened, awkward halt to an attempt as the creature just stares at the tip of its trunk on the ground. A bustling group of loud katoa in Hawaiian shirts, straw hats, sunglasses, and carrying little cages with very small and incredibly angry red and green-skinned grung will pass by, and now more and more of the crowd starts to appear, walking, running, slithering, floating, and crawling past each other in random directions, all of them carrying random and weird things if one takes a moment to just stare at them. But the crowd sort of flows in certain directions, and the characters are only really staggering around in a series of full figure eight circles, looking at stuff and just being jostled by things that are not there for those not wildly intoxicated. Pupils as wide open as a hunting cat, the player characters will find all manner of shop fronts, from the riveted metal plates and porthole windows of a submarine taxidermist that can create partially animated zombie skins for truly realistic creature displays, to the fumes of perfumes and delightful music coming from a huge tent of billowing silks. Inside, a number of sophisticated cloud giant art critics are having a booming argument over a representational art performance piece, namely a jumbled edifice made up of many different creatures, a Medusa, a cockatrice, a basilisk, some sort of metal cow, a brass golem, and various others, all turned to stone at the exact moment that they are all grappling with each other in a big WrestleMania pile. It is for sale, as are the rest of the equally weird artworks on display, but the prices are in huge dinner plate-sized cloud giant coins. One might descend a curved and broad set of steps into a chamber almost identical to Jabba the Hutt's palace, except it's an old master Nyogi, vastly bloated with squirming offspring inside it, holding court from its throne bowl full of slops partially eaten offspring and its own oozing sweat, while Nyogi traders and slavers cluster around little tables, also located on the walls and the ceiling, as they climb around on these surfaces easily with their spidery limbs. This is a very nasty place that sells cursed items, slaves, and horrible services to horrible creatures. They will not attempt to trade with most player characters unless it is to trade magic items and gems for other magic items, exotic spell components, and information on how to get to different places around the multiverse. The Nyogi are actually pretty reasonable when it comes to prices, but asking for a refund will probably get you horribly murdered. Normally the Nyogi will deal with the Mind Flayers, who will then deal with the Arcane, as the Arcane will not deal directly with the Nyogi. So the Nyogi are used to deals where the player characters can go and do a deal on their behalf, just so that the trade can carry on despite the severe moral and ethical failings of the vile and evil Nyogi. They really do put the Ferengi of Star Trek to shame. Now, while D&D Spelljammer may contain the potential to buy basically anything from such a free and chaotic market, just be warned. Don't go down dark paths that the players will end up feeling very uncomfortable hearing about. Imply that the worst kind of things are also found there. Do not show those things. Evil creatures operate in the shadows. It's the bored and vastly wealthy cosmic wastrels that like to put on shocking and edgy displays of vulgarity. The players will quickly learn to avoid the overly wealthy and stay away from such places that clearly don't suit them, such as the pathway made completely of frozen spiderwebs and doorways that look like screaming demon maws, curtains made of actual flames and bubbling pools of strange burping fluids, surrounded by neon arrows promising loose slots and all-you-can-eat free buffets. Even if it turns out the place is a casino located originally on the elemental plane of water and run by the hilarious mud dolphins, who have the natural ability to shapeshift their mud body into the exact likeness of anyone they meet, except, of course, made out of mud. Deep cracks in the ground will contain an entire market for flying tiny creatures of all kinds, all buzzing around amid crisscrossing ropes with brightly coloured paper lanterns and stalls hanging off the sheer walls as far as the eye can see. The beer fest of some kind may be slowly and loudly crawling by, literally riding on a huge bed of sentient moss. The honking of the pipes and horns, clinking of tankards, and the smell of roasted meats can be like a slowly moving landmark as the player characters race around trying to find something good before whatever drugs they are on wear off. Typically this will be at about an hour of real time, but for the 2 to 4 hours after they visit the market, they will still be pretty whacked, suffering the poisoned condition for that time and not wanting to do much of anything other than ride out the lingering effects, drink, eat something, and try to rest. To those who have not been drugged or enchanted to be able to see the Unreal Market, it will seem like suddenly the intoxicated folks will have whatever items they got hold of in the market materialize on their person as they just lose the ability to see or interact with it anymore. These items are functional, but they are not made of actual matter. Cut in half, they will appear to be made of some blank, plastic-like substance that's completely inert and simply dissolves away when exposed to normal reality. So Unreal items can never be repaired or replaced and make no physical sense. They just do what they do and vanish when spent or broken, leaving nothing behind, because they're not actually real. They just acted real. It doesn't make any sense, it's not supposed to, but your players will absolutely love it. Now, here's the fun part, and I'm calling on you here. In the comment section below this video, I would greatly appreciate your dreaming up any market weirdo sort of venue you can think of as something that could be encountered and interacted with in the Unreal Market. Think about the venue as an environment. Think of the beings that made it or run it. Think of the goods, the customers, and the impact anything found there may have on a game world. So workably insane is what we're aiming for. This is the most exotic marketplace one can possibly encounter. Let's make it epic, shall we? So let's build a real resource for anyone visiting this video in the future. Put your mark on it. Become part of something really internet legendary. Take your time. This video isn't going anywhere, so playtest some ideas with your group. Share the best anecdotes with us back here. If you really want to kick things up a notch, you can turn the Unreal Market into a transitive plane in its own right, sort of the border zone between the Feywild and the Far Realm. It exists both nowhere and everywhere, so it's possible to hallucinate wildly, enter the market, and step out again literally on another world from where and perhaps even when you started. It may be possible to encounter future or past versions of your own player characters in the market from other points in their adventuring career, but they can't talk to each other without hurling each other back out of the market, the experience somehow always killing their buzz and bringing them crashing back into reality. So you don't even need to explain it other than the drug wore off instantly and you've been thrown out of the marketplace. The possibilities are endless. Another spin on this sort of environment is purely illusionary terrain and creatures created to live within those illusions, so layered illusions, or places that only exist in a semi-real state. One concept I recently used was an ethereal deep freeze that contained and preserved objects taken from the broader ethereal plane. These objects are memory echoes of objects in the real world the ethereal plane is overlapping. Often these are objects that once existed but got removed and destroyed and now only exist as memory, so the ghost terrain essentially. Now, if you imagine a market attraction that contains the last of their kind, a collection from across the multiverse of the etheric echoes of creatures that no longer exist, monuments of lost civilizations civilizations, also very well contained and controlled undead examples of such creatures. No living examples of these things exist anymore. Everything is unique, never to be seen anywhere else, the last of their kind. I have some working plans around wizards who are deliberately stalking around the border ethereal plane nearby the most ancient and powerful creatures, hunting for the oldest and most rare etheric echoes. They may capture ghosts for people as a quick bit of side income, or even cause hauntings in order to scam a bit of income out of folks who don't get their set of special skills. Also, you may encounter these ghost hunters that make emergency exits back into reality, followed by a vicious pack of ethereal marauders, stalkers, or felchers, neogi slavers, hungry mind flayers, an agitated phase spider colony, or some such. Oh yeah, the Smith's Portals and Walls established infinity symbol. This is a multiverse-wide chain of outlets that provide planar travel experts who deal with getting from one place to another, and also in stopping things from other places entering where they are not welcome. They don't hire themselves out as treasure seekers or rescue teams, but individual outlet staff are free to take on any work that interests them. But it's a pretty well-established outfit with tons of mysteries in the company's own history. For example, the reason it has an infinity symbol, as it's an established date, is because the universe the company was originally founded in no longer exists, thanks to time travelers rewriting reality several times and somehow stranding the company in a self-sustaining temporal loop where no matter what, there is always a branch open somewhere, everywhere, all the time, from the beginning to the end of time, everywhere. This means that the staff employed by the company numbers somewhere in the trillions. The entire human species from the dawn of time could all currently be employed by the company, and they would still be hiring. It's like the McDonald's burger flipping entry-level job of the multiverse, and yet also the most deadly, highly skilled, resource-heavy organization in the multiverse that nobody really thinks too much about because the outlets are just so damned handy. If they didn't exist, someone would have to invent them. And that is all this is, folks, my inventing stuff as I run my Spelljammer campaign. It's far more than just flying ships and space hamsters. Welcome to a month of mayhem. My name is AJ Pickett. I make videos about existing role-playing game lore usually. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.